December 7th, 1941, a date that lives in infamy as the morning sun rose over the island paradise of Hawaii. On this day, the Pearl Harbor Naval Base lay nestled in the warm embrace of the Pacific, its serene setting a testament to the tranquil beauty of the islands. The base, a bustling hub of military activity, was waking up to what seemed like another peaceful Sunday morning. Sailors were roused from their bunks, yawning and stretching, ready to start their day. The civilians too were stirring, the scent of breakfast wafting from the kitchens, and children playing in the yards, their laughter echoing through the air. Nestled amidst a backdrop of emerald mountains and sapphire waters, the naval base was buzzing with the humdrum of everyday life. The ships anchored in the harbor were silent giants, their imposing structures casting long shadows on the still waters. Soldiers were bustling about, their crisp uniforms stark against the vibrant greens and blues of the Hawaiian landscape. The air was filled with the sounds of a community at work, the clanging of metal, the distant hum of engines, the rhythmic lapping of waves against the hulls of the moored ships. Yet beneath this veneer of normalcy, the world was in the throes of a tumultuous conflict. World War II was raging across the globe, and although the United States had yet to enter the fray, the echoes of war were growing louder. But on this morning in this place, the harsh realities of a world at war felt distant, almost unreal. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, its golden rays casting a warm glow over the island, the tranquility of the morning carried on. It was a picture of peace, a moment frozen in time, a calm before the storm. The soldiers, the civilians, the children, none could anticipate the storm that was about to descend. Unbeknownst to them, the dawn of infamy was about to break, forever changing the course of history, and shattering the idyllic peace of this island paradise. As the tranquility of the morning carried on, none could anticipate the storm that was about to descend. To understand the magnitude of this day, we must first rewind to the years leading up to the attack. The 1930s were a time of mounting tensions in the Pacific, as Japan pursued an aggressive policy of expansion. As Japan flexed its military muscle, invading Manchuria and later China, it became apparent that their ambitions were not just regional, but global. Meanwhile, the United States, though thousands of miles away, was watching with a wary eye. As Japan's aggression grew, the United States became increasingly concerned. They were not yet ready for war, but they were unwilling to stand by and watch unchecked aggression. In response, they imposed strict economic sanctions on Japan, putting an embargo on critical resources like oil and steel. These sanctions hit Japan hard. As an island nation with few natural resources, Japan was heavily reliant on imports. The embargo was a significant blow to Japan's economy and its war machine. It was a clear message from the United States: halt your expansion or face the consequences. But Japan was not so easily deterred. They saw the embargo not as a deterrent, but as a provocation. In their eyes, the United States was meddling in their affairs, hindering their rightful place as a dominant power in the Pacific. This only served to heighten tensions, pushing the two nations closer to the brink of war. Back in Washington, diplomatic efforts were underway to resolve the crisis. But these negotiations were fraught with difficulty. The United States demanded that Japan withdraw from China and Indochina, a demand that Japan found unacceptable. The negotiations reached a stalemate, with neither side willing to back down. And so, as diplomatic efforts faltered, a dark plan was set in motion. A plan to launch a surprise attack on the United States, an attack that would shock the world and plunge it into a global conflict. The stage was set for one of the most infamous days in history. As diplomatic efforts faltered, a dark plan was set in motion. Back to that fateful morning, as the first wave of Japanese planes appeared on the horizon. Without warning, the tranquil skies over Pearl Harbor were torn apart by the deafening roar of engines and the whistling of bombs slicing through the air. The date was December 7th, 1941. It was a Sunday morning just before 8. Many of the servicemen were still in their bunks, dreaming away the last moments of peace they'd known for a long time. The first bombs fell, and the naval base was thrust into a nightmare of fire and metal. The Japanese attack was swift, calculated, and devastating. Over 350 aircraft swarmed the harbor, dropping bombs and launching torpedoes with ruthless precision. The American forces, caught off guard, could only scramble to mount a defense amidst the chaos. Battleships that were once the pride of the Pacific Fleet were now smoldering hulks of twisted metal. The Arizona, the Oklahoma, the West Virginia. These names would be etched into the annals of history, not for their victories, but for their demise. Amidst the smoke and carnage, the American servicemen fought back with everything they had. They manned their posts, they fired their guns, and they braved the flames. There was confusion, there was fear, but above all, there was courage. The torpedoes ripped through hulls, the bombs turned the world into a raging inferno, and the bullets rained down like a deadly hailstorm. Yet through it all, the American spirit endured. It was battered, it was bruised, but it was not broken. This was not a battle. It wasn't a skirmish or a clash of armies. It was a surprise attack, a devastating blow that came without warning and without mercy. It was a moment that would ignite a nation and change the course of history. In less than 2 hours, the face of Pearl Harbor and America was forever changed. The day of infamy had dawned, and the United States was now thrust into the crucible of the Second World War. As the smoke cleared and the echoes of explosions faded, the scale of devastation became evident. A day that began like any other had transformed into an inferno of destruction, marking the start of a new chapter in American history. The attack on Pearl Harbor had left a deep, indelible scar. 8 battleships, 3 cruisers, and 4 destroyers had been damaged or destroyed, along with nearly 200 aircraft. The human toll was even more staggering. More than 2,400 American lives were lost, and another 1,000 were injured. The devastation was not just physical, it was emotional, psychological, and societal. Across the nation, radios crackled with the news, spreading a wave of shock and disbelief. The tranquility of a Sunday morning had been shattered by the harsh reality of war. The American dream, once filled with hope and optimism, was now clouded by uncertainty and fear. Yet, in the midst of the chaos and confusion, there was a spark of resolve. The American spirit, known for its resilience, would not be easily broken. The military and government sprang into action. The wreckage, still smoldering, became a somber testament to the urgency of the situation. The immediate response was to secure the area, tend to the wounded, and begin the daunting task of salvage and repair. But beyond the physical recovery, there was a strategic shift in mindset. The United States, once reluctant to enter the war, was now forced to confront the stark reality. The attack on Pearl Harbor was not just a military assault, it was a blow to America's sense of security, a challenge to its principles, and a test of its resolve. The aftermath of that fateful day would not be measured in the months of repair or the years of conflict that followed, but in the enduring spirit of a nation forever changed. With the nation in shock, the course of history was irreversibly altered. The day after the attack, President Franklin D. Roosevelt addressed the nation, forever engraving December 7th into the annals of history. Roosevelt stood before Congress, his voice steady and resolute, his words echoing across the nation. He proclaimed December 7th as a date which will live in infamy. This speech, known today as the Infamy speech, was a mere 804 words long, but its impact was profound. It rallied the American people, stirring in them a spirit of unity and resolve. Roosevelt recounted the chilling details of the attack, the lives lost, the devastation. His words painted a vivid picture, one that stirred the hearts of millions. He spoke not with anger but with a resolute determination, a pledge to defend the nation and uphold the principles of freedom and democracy. Following the Infamy speech, Congress took swift action. On December 8th, they passed the declaration of war against Japan. The vote was near unanimous, with only one dissenting voice. This marked the United States' official entry into World War II, a conflict that had already been raging for 2 years. And then, America mobilized. Factories were converted into war production plants. Men and women across the country enlisted in the armed forces. Bonds were bought, rations were imposed, and the entire nation shifted its focus towards the war effort. It was a time of great change and uncertainty, but also of unity and purpose. The attack on Pearl Harbor was a devastating blow, but it also served as a catalyst. It woke a sleeping giant, as the phrase goes. It galvanized a nation into action, turning a country that had been largely isolationist into a major player on the world stage. In the face of tragedy, a nation united, ready to fight for freedom and justice. The United States had entered the war, not with a whimper but with a roar, and the world would never be the same. The attack on Pearl Harbor was a catalyst, a spark that ignited America's full involvement in the Second World War. This surprise assault on a tranquil Sunday morning in December 1941 forever altered the course of American history and reshaped its national identity. In the aftermath of the attack, America's foreign policy experienced a seismic shift. The country, once content with its isolationist stance, was now thrust onto the global stage. No longer could America stand on the sidelines, as the events of Pearl Harbor had shown. The world's conflicts could reach its shores. The United States, henceforth, embraced a more interventionist role, recognizing that its security was interconnected with global peace and stability. The military strategy of the United States also underwent significant changes. The attack exposed vulnerabilities in the country's Pacific defenses, prompting a massive military buildup and a strategic focus on naval and air power. This shift would prove pivotal in the Pacific theater, as the United States turned the tide against the Axis powers. But perhaps the most profound impact of Pearl Harbor was on the American identity. The attack galvanized the nation, transforming it from a divided country into a united front. Americans from all walks of life rallied together, driven by a common purpose and a shared resolve. The ethos of the greatest generation was born out of this crucible of adversity, a spirit characterized by courage, sacrifice, and resilience. The attack on Pearl Harbor also left an indelible mark on the American psyche. It became a symbol of national resolve, a testament to the country's ability to overcome adversity and emerge stronger. Today, the phrase "Remember Pearl Harbor" serves as a rallying cry, a reminder of the nation's capacity for unity and resilience in the face of adversity. The memory of Pearl Harbor continues to resonate, a solemn reminder of the costs of war and the resilience of the American spirit. Today, the waters of Pearl Harbor serve as a solemn testament to the lives lost and the sacrifices made on that fateful day. It is a place where tears still mingle with the Pacific, a place that whispers of the past while it echoes the resounding will of a nation. In the heart of this harbor, the Pearl Harbor Memorial stands as a beacon of remembrance. This poignant monument, also known as the USS Arizona Memorial, silently guards the remains of the sunken battleship and the final resting place of over 1,000 sailors and Marines. It is a silent sentinel, a bridge between the past and the present, forever reminding us of the cost of war. Each year, on December 7th, a ceremony is held to honor those who perished in the attack. Survivors, veterans, and the families of those lost gather to reflect and remember. The air fills with the solemn notes of taps. The wreaths of remembrance float on the mirror-like water, and the names of the fallen are read aloud, their sacrifices echoing through the years. Pearl Harbor was not just a military defeat, it was a pivotal moment that tested the resolve of a nation. It was a stark reminder of the price of freedom, the cost of complacency, and the necessity of readiness. It taught us that peace is not a given, it's a gift, one that comes with a price. The lessons of Pearl Harbor resonate even today. They remind us to remain vigilant, to never underestimate our adversaries, and to always remember that the preservation of peace requires courage, sacrifice, and a steadfast commitment to our principles. We remember Pearl Harbor, not just as a day of infamy, but as a testament to the enduring spirit of America and the price of peace.